Hey everyone, this is Emily, and I am a digital transformation consultant at Hyperbots. I am very pleased to have Anthony on the call with me. Anthony is the CEO at Coast to Coast Finance. So, thank you so much for joining us today, Anthony. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Emily.
So, today we'd be discussing the intricacies of handling multi currency purchases. So, let's just dive in, Anthony. Multi currency transactions are a common challenge for companies operating globally. Could you walk us through the typical scenarios where a company might face multi-currency purchase challenges?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, like you said, when a company is operating globally, they may be dealing with vendors, and typically those vendors will prefer to get paid in their local currency. So several scenarios can come up, right? Whether you're receiving the quotes in a foreign currency, maybe you're sourcing items from multiple countries, or just generating those types of global purchase orders. And really, when those scenarios arise, it's important to think about how to manage the PO, how to manage the payments, and the currencies in your general ledger so you can mitigate any risks with currency fluctuations.
So, when a US based company deals with, let's say, European vendors who prefer payments in euros or GBP, how should the company decide on the currency for purchase orders and payments?
Yeah, good question. I generally I would recommend to issue the PO in the vendor's preferred currency, right? That way you can give clarity on the price and just avoid complications due to rate fluctuations. Then you can make the payment in the currency of the PO, but the company's GL would record the transactions in their functional currency. Maybe that's USD or Euro, or wherever that company is located. That would really balance kind of the need for vendor payments with internal financial accuracy.
And in situations where vendors provide quotes only in foreign currencies, how should a company handle this when issuing the purchase order and recording the transactions in their general ledger?
When you get the quote in the foreign currency, then I would say the PO should reflect that currency, right? This really makes sure that the vendor receives the amount that they expect without any risk of conversion errors. Then your GL records the PO value in your company's functional currency based on whatever exchange rate you set up. Maybe that's set up in your ERP, for a currency exchange. Now, then, if there's fluctuations in the rate between the PO date and the payment date, depending on what kind of item it is, you may decide to capture that in like a purchase price variance, or if you're doing this often, you may set up a Forex gains and loss account.
So, Anthony, companies often source components from OEM vendors located in different countries. How does multi currency management come into play in such scenarios?
So yeah, if you're issuing multiple POs and managing multiple currencies, right? I would say just issue it in the currency that the vendor prefers and then make the payment in that currency. Of course, your GL is gonna record those transactions in your functional currency or the company's. But the real challenge here is trying to manage multiple exchange rates and understanding how those fluctuations can impact overall costs. So in that case, you always want to have really strong, robust controls in place at your company so you can track and manage those variations.
So, for multinational companies with operations in various countries, handle global POs and the associated currency risk.
Gotcha. Yeah. With a multinational company, right, they can issue the PO in a local currency or their vendor's preferred currency. Then, of course, you want to record in the GL, in the local GL in that respective country where that company is operating. Then you can kind of consolidate, right, from the parent company, and those local GLs can be consolidated into a global reporting currency, maybe USD or whatever else you're using. That way, each regional operation can locally manage currency risk while enabling that parent company to kind of assess overall exposure and really look at performance on a more global scale.
So, Anthony, Forex gains and losses, like they are an inevitable part of currency transactions. How should these computed and posted in the GL?
Yeah, if this is happening a lot and you're doing a lot of exchanges between different currencies, you're going to have Forex gains and losses. It's really unavoidable for the
Mm-hmm.
most part. So if you issue a PO, say in euro, right? Um, Maybe the exchange rate is 1 euro equals 1 USD at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But when the payment is made, now it's 1 euro equals 1.2 USD. Then that additional cost would be recorded as a Forex loss in the GL.
Mm-hmm.
And the vice versa, right? If you got a favorable price shift in the currency markets, you could record that as a gain.
And how exactly can companies maybe protect themselves from significant forex fluctuations when dealing with multi-currency purchases?
Yeah, that's a good question. Obviously, you can use hedging. You can look at contracts to try to lock in those exchange rates. I know we're talking about purchases and vendors and GLs, but one thing some global companies may have to think of is how they're paying their employees, right? In a you have your global currency or your parent company currency, and then those regionals are paying their employees in the local currency. So kind of monitoring the Forex markets, the parent company can go out and buy that currency, whatever it is,
Mhm.
and then use that what they bought to pay and kind of lock in that rate. Really, the key would be to kind of balance that risk management with the cost efficiency. If you are hedging, you want to make sure that benefit outweighs the cost.
And just to summarize one last question, Anthony, what role does AI or what role potentially can AI play in managing multi-currency transactions effectively?
Yeah, I mean, obviously AI is here to stay in finance. So the more you can start to automate and really use AI to manage multi-currency transactions, whether that's automating the exchange rate calculations or just kind of integrating that into a global system for real-time currency monitoring. The next step that I see would be to really integrate that in with your ERP, right? So managing those multi-currency POs, material requirements, planning payments, GL entries. AI can also reduce the risk of a manual error. Maybe somebody moves a decimal on accident. Funny story, long, long, long time ago, when I was first in the workforce, I got a letter from the IRS saying I owed them such and such amount of taxes. At the time, it felt like a lot, right? My young brain, maybe it was a few $1,000s, but it was a lot. Come to find out, it was an error on the IRS side. They had just moved a decimal, whatever calculation. And of course, that got sent out, the letter got sent, and it was a whole thing. So with AI, right, you can really reduce those manual errors and start to predict kind of currency movements, start to make more informed decisions on when to convert those currencies.
All right. Thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us today and sharing your insights. It's clear that handling multi-currency purchases requires a very strategic approach, combining financial acumen with the right tools and processes. So thank you so much for joining us and shedding light on the subject.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, managing those transactions effectively is essential, not only for financial stability, but really to support the business operations at a global level, right?
All right. Thank you.